dog. You can't see my dog, but it's my dog.
We'll see me, man.
Hi. See? My name is Folaumahina, and yeah, diagnosed with ADHD. It was so much of like, I thought I was different. It was more of like, I remember people saying like, oh wow, the way you think is kind of weird, or they would say different. But I was just like, oh whatever, not like other girls. I was just not on it. So I like legit was just kind of like, I don't know. What pushed me to get diagnosed was because of an event at work, because of a situation. I was working a part-time job in college, and then I was a secretary for an office, but there was 3 secretaries, right, to fill out throughout the day. We were given a project where we were supposed to go through all the advisors' students. We had like 8 advisors, and each advisor had like thousands of students. So we had to go through and we had to log it all into an Excel sheet. And so my supervisor was like, okay, and like this is our #1 priority. You guys should only be doing this, and then answering calls and doing like normal scheduling. But otherwise than that, this is your project. And I was like, okay, yeah, bet. So then every day I'd come in and all I remember doing, because I can also hyper focus, was I remember, of course I did the calls and stuff, but I felt I was like super diligent. I went through all the lists, I was doing all this stuff. And then my supervisor, after a couple weeks, called me in. And then I remember I was like, oh, okay. Like maybe, I don't know. Could be for multiple reasons, a new project or whatever. But she called me in and she said, we've been noticing your work ethic, and basically it's like behind. What are you doing? And that shocked me, because to me, all I'm doing is this. So then when she said that, I remember I was it took a while for me to respond, which I guess I understand that looks shady. Yeah. Like as if I'm trying to think of a lie, but really I was just kind of like, no way. All I'm doing is this. And I was like, what do you mean? And she said, well, the other 2 receptionists are like leagues ahead of you. They're finishing like 6 pages. You're only finishing like 2 or 3. And she also, there was other things that she said I also needed to work with, but I didn't know how to explain to her. She said that I also email you and you're not prompt with emailing me back, and that is not good. And so then after like this meeting, I was just, I was like super disheartened, because I was, no way. I felt like I was working so hard. Plus, I understand the email thing. I didn't know how to explain to her that I was getting triggered by my email at the time because of like mental health, and I was seeing a therapist for that. But then also bringing that up, that kind of just sounds like, there's, I don't know. I didn't know whether I would be understood, so I didn't say anything. And I just said, I'm sorry, I'll try and be better, even though I wasn't talking about how I've been like literally meeting with my therapist to work through it.
Or even the fact that you were giving your best.
Yeah.
And like you were pushing really hard.
Yeah.
Just for those 2 pages, even though, because like, did they even say like, hey, you need to have X amount of pages done by this time? Or were they just comparing you to the other coworkers?
They were just comparing me to the other coworkers. Because all they said was just do this as quick as possible.
Yeah.
They never said get as many pages done in a day. Yeah. So that's why I was kind of shocked when they said that you're like falling behind. She did say try as fast, and if the other 2 were already averaging 6, then what's my holdup? And it could be different. In my head, I was like, I'll get this done. But maybe in her head, all she saw was la la la, so I was, who knows?
Yeah.
But I do I went home and I like talked about it to my mom. I talked about it to my cousin's wife. I talked about it to my sister, and my sister was like, "Well, like you do things slower." And my mom said the same thing. Actually, everyone said the same thing. Everyone said, "Val, you just do stuff slower." But for me, I was like, but something feels different. Like, shouldn't I? How come I am only averaging like 2-3 pages and they're 6 or more? And that bothered me. I went back and to work, and I guess I paid attention to myself more, and I realized that so again, we were logging students, right? I would log a student's name, double check I logged it right to the right advisor. Then I'd go down to the next one, but then I'd be like, wait, did I do that? So then I'd go back, and then I would like, yeah, okay, I did that. I did that for every single one.
So that's like double
yes.
time. Yeah.
Which also made sense why I felt I was working so hard, because I was like triple checking. Even though I remember I had come early, and like my friend, the receptionist before, because I was in the middle of like the afternoon shift. I came in early and I saw her doing it, and she was like talking, but she was also doing it at the same time. And I just remember her like seeing it, glancing at it, and then just, and I was, okay, I can see why. Oh, okay, I see this. But then I was like, but I don't know why I keep double checking. Why do I keep forgetting and all this stuff? I talked about it to my therapist, and then my therapist was like asking me a couple questions, and then they said, well, have you thought of like maybe you have ADHD? And I was, I don't have ADHD. Man,
oh, what a silly question.
Only white people have ADHD. I don't have ADHD. He was like, well, BYU test for ADHD for a way cheaper price than like if you did it outside. And I was, oh, bet. And then one of my professors, I was taking this like it was supposed to be an easy class, and she was also a therapist as well as a professor, and it was like learning like different ways of learning. That's what the whole class was about. And she also, I kind of told her, oversharing, just kind of like, oh, professor, guess what, like this is I might, like my therapist said I might need to take ADHD test for ADHD. Isn't that crazy? And then she said, ha, if you go take it, I'll pay for you. So for me, I was like, I'm not spending $50 to go test for whatever when I don't even know. Plus, if I even take this home and I tell my mom about it, what will my mom say? You know? So then I thought about it, and I was like, well, you don't lose anything if you take it. Like, if you take it and it says no, like you said, you don't have ADHD. But if you take it and it's a yes, then some stuff will change for you. So I went through with it. The test is kind of funny, because first off, there's 3 portions. One portion, it's a 300 question portion, and that is because they test if you're consistent.
Wow.
Because some people try and test for ADHD to get Adderall.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah. But if you're consistently, you can't fake 300 questions. I mean, you can try, but if you're not hitting consistency, then, you know. And the questions aren't as obvious. It's not like, do you bounce off the walls? Like, it's not like that anyways. It's like a whole plethora of stuff. Apparently, I was also tested for other things in that, but I'm not going to talk. Anyways, I didn't ask for this. I just asked for ADHD. It kind of shows high levels of tendency to be self-isolating. I remember reading that, and I was like, yeah, I'm going to skip this part. I'm just going to go to the... Anyway. And then the third one was, have your parent or someone who like saw you grow up, have them answer and test and answer, like, when this person was a kid, did they this, and I was like, that's gonna have to be my mom. So I was like, okay, I guess we're gonna talk to my mom about this. And I remember when I brought it up, she was like, sit, you're just looking to be ADHD. Why are you just looking for stuff you wanna, you just wanna be this? And I don't wanna be this. It's just, I feel like I should take it. I mean, I don't know. Some stuff online, so I'm gonna take it. It's for free. And she's like, wow, hoy, whatever. So what do I do again? So then I told her, you do this and this. So then I went through all 300 questions. I answered. I did mine. My mom did that portion. And then I turned it in. And then I met with the evaluator. And so we went over the test. After the test, of course, I went back and told my mom, and I was like, "That's what, Mom?" She was like, "Wait, so you have ADHD?" And I was like, "Yeah, I have ADHD. So now I'm gonna get, like, now I need medication." But then I was kind of nervous about it was this whole process, but that made me realize that, I don't know, that the situation at work, because I was low-key scared I was gonna get fired.
Yeah.
She brought up multiple things that I needed to work on, and they're fair. I understood why. And then when I met with her again, I told her, like, I'm gonna try and work on the email thing. I mean, not try, I will answer you. This means you're gonna fire me. I will work through these triggers, because there's no way I can't get fired. Not in this economy.
Do you feel like they're more understanding with you now that they know that, like, you went through that process and that, like, you got diagnosed with ADHD?
That particular supervisor, I wasn't sure. She ran a tight ship. She's really good at her job.
Yeah.
She's super good at her job. But because I ran slower and different, I kind of felt like that, if you're running a tight ship and then there's, like, one gear that's not working as well as the others, it's kind of, like, not the best.
Yeah.
I felt that way. That doesn't actually mean she felt that way too, but that's just how I felt.
Yeah.
And it kind of made me try harder to run as fast as everyone, or, like, as efficient as everyone else. Even when I started taking medication, I saw a difference. That's for sure, I saw a difference. Everyone apparently also saw a difference, which I was like, okay, cool, relax. But my next supervisor, she would know, and she would, and we would also joke, like, "Wow, did you take your meds?" And I was like, just go take them.
It's always nice, like, meeting coworkers that understand, especially when they're, like, in leadership and above you. I think that as, like, Utah's growing and expanding with understanding neurodiversity, but a lot of workplaces still struggle to know how to be inclusive for their employees that, like, have that, and exactly with, like, what you're saying, like, it just makes productivity harder. And then the way that they're comparing your work ethic to other people's is just, like, really unfair, But in their minds, they don't see it that way because they're not looking at it from a neurodivergent perspective. They're just basing everybody off of neurotypical standards.
Yeah.
So it's always nice just to see, like, other coworkers that are, like, super inclusive and, like, they're just, like, chill about everything, So it's funny to me too because it's not funny, but it's just it's just also interesting because, especially with you not ever thinking that you had ADHD or that you were just like everybody else, one of the characteristics of ADHD is their tendency to just have lots of thoughts compiling up in their head all the time. So usually people will explain it as, like, it's kind of like computer tabs, and they have, like, multiple various computer tabs in their brain, and it's not, like, filed away. It's, like, all tabs open at all times. And then they're just thinking about all these things, and so that's also why sometimes it's hard to focus in conversation, or even when like your supervisor, for example, when she's got this email and she's expecting you to like reply, and you're like, okay, yeah, I will, but like in one split second, all these other things are running in your brain, and even you can get like distracted from something visually that you see, and you're like, oh, I'll get back to it, but then because all these other tabs are running, like you completely forget about it.
100%. Yeah.
So it is interesting because like especially with work, business perspective is looking at it as like you're not working hard, but to you have so many tabs in your head, and you're like, what do you mean? Like I got all this stuff going on, like I'm doing great, you know. So.
Yeah. It's funny, I see it and how it applies for other jobs too. I worked as a janitor after, like a whole bunch of us were cleaning crew, and even then I would be slow, but I would try my hardest to be fast. But the way that I was taught was the way that I stuck to, and to deviate from that pattern that was set would stress me out. So I need to do exactly the way that I was taught, but that meant that I was like I do this, then I do this, then I do this, then I do this, then I do this. And I tried to make it faster, but I would always be one of the last ones, like reporting back to the lunchroom. I don't know why. I had to do it that way. If there was any other way, I would mess up. I wouldn't do it. And plus it wouldn't feel clean, and I would feel like I'm not doing my job. Yeah. So it always had to be that.
But for you growing up, what were you taught about disabilities and mental health, and how did those teachings affect your perspective of yourself, especially when coming to find out that you had ADHD?
You know, our people are just told that we're happy people, and there's no such thing as this or this and this on the island. And so, to coming to America, like it's a Westerner problem, it's an American problem, it's a white problem. Which is also why I too.
Yeah, you literally said you're like, white people have ADHD, I don't know.
Only white people have ADHD. No time. Yeah, ate my words. Anyways. So, when I came back from my mission and I started feeling different, like, depression and anxiety. I didn't really, well, okay, when I look back I see that I had, instances, but it's just at the time I didn't really think it was that. I just thought like, which is true, everyone does get sad, everyone does get anxious, but after I served the LDS mission, I just remember it felt different. It started to feel like I can't be feeling like this every day for the rest of my life. This just feels different than just normal sadness. So it's difficult to start these conversations, especially with parents who only grew up like in the islands. However, I'm really grateful for where like our parents are at when it comes to mental health, because at first there was a lot of pushback, like our people are happy, or like you don't have faith, or have more faith. But over time my parents have come to see like, oh, this is like this is real and it's valid. Even with my ADHD, even though I know my mom kind of like, whatever.
She still backed you up in the end, and she still wanted to be there for you. Yeah.
I mean, she still took the test for me, because I asked. I know at the end of the line, my parents just love me and want to support me, even if it's something that they're not comfortable with or something they don't know. They'll still try.
Statistics show that people with neurodivergency, especially undiagnosed neurodivergency, they have increased spikes in depression and anxiety. And a part of that is because they don't understand what's going on with them. And they think that they're doing everything right, they're doing everything that they can, but something is still wrong and they can't put their finger on it, so it does increase their depression. And then on top of that, they're not getting the right support that they need or that they want to like help address it, right? It's just like a lot of band-aids, putting band-aids on. until they actually like acknowledge it.
I would have to say it was a community that helped me, especially get the resources. Like my professor who decided to pay for my test, or even like my therapist. Well, how I even started therapy was I was going through this really the toughest like mental health bout that I've ever gone through before. It was getting really dark for me. And I made an appointment with my advisor at that same office I worked at. But I was so depressed and anxious, I just like, I don't care. I don't care about life. I don't care about this. I'm not going to go. So I didn't go. Which is so ugly of me because my advisor works. I work at where my advisor works. But I was just kind of like, I'll just see him and then I'll say like, sorry I didn't make it. I'll reschedule. Won't reschedule.
Oh, you're one of those people.
I'm still one of those people. I'm definitely one of those people. So then I went to work and I saw him and I was like, oh, yeah, Q, sorry, couldn't make it. I'll reschedule. And he looked around. It was like the office. There was nothing happening. No one was coming in. Like no one. I hadn't seen anyone for hours.
Oh, it was God's plan.
I should have known. I should have known I didn't see anyone for hours when I thought to myself, wow, there's nothing to do. Even though I tried to do stuff, but it was all like computer work anyways. So then he like looked around and he's like, that's chill. Sat down right in front of me. You can do it right here. And I was like, here? And he was like, yeah, here. And I was like, oh, okay. So then I thought to myself, okay, we're gonna lie. Anyway, so then he asked me like, how are you doing? And I fully prepared to lie. All of a sudden out my mouth came, not doing so well. And I kind of paused and I remember thinking, what the hell did you just say? We said lie, Bao. So then I tried to, but you know, that's how it always is. We're really good. Polys are really, making things nonchalant.
Just brush it off, yeah.
Just jokes.
Yeah. Never know.
But anyways, and what was it? And then the more he asked me, the more I was like, lie, Val, lie through your teeth. What the? You've been like lying to everyone for weeks. So what? About how you're doing and all that stuff. But for some reason, all that came out was like, I'm not doing so well. I remember he specifically meant like, okay, well, what does that mean? And I was like, what does that mean, Val? What does that mean? Say that's fine.
The deflection is real.
Yeah. But then I tried to explain it and I ended up explaining it in almost like the stupidest way I could. And it sounds so dramatic as I like retell it, but in my head I really was just trying to joke. Or I was just trying to be dumb. I was trying to deflect. I was trying to say no. Or I was cool. But I couldn't. I don't know why. Anyways. But I remember he was like, well, what does that mean? And I was like, I don't know. It just kind of feels like, like in off the distance you can like see a storm or like the storms, if like a thunderstorm was coming, you would like feel the wind change and like the temperature change and all this stuff. You could like see it's very much here. He's like, yeah. And I was like, I don't feel anything. And then he paused, stared at me, then brought out his phone and he's like, yeah, I'm gonna get you a meeting with the therapist next week. And I was like, what? Mind you, so BYU has like, they offer free counseling to their students, but there's a lot of students. They can be backed for months. I remember I tried to reach out because I wasn't feeling safe, like with myself. And I tried to make an appointment, but then they said like you could see someone in 3 months. And I know I wasn't the only one who saw that. So then when I saw that, I took it as like, it's a sign. It's not for you. Like, you don't need it. Someone else needs this, not you. So that's what I took it as. But when Q told me that he would make me meet with someone and it would be as soon as next week, I remember feeling like, no way. What? That's crazy. And my first therapist that I met with, he was actually poly.
Wow.
Yeah.
Do you feel like that made all the difference?
That's the only reason why I continued with therapy. That's the only reason why I gave therapy a chance. Because when he told me a therapist, I was like, so I will sit and talk to a white man about my struggles as a Polynesian woman? No thanks. No thanks. But then he said, no, this there's a Polynesian therapist, and I was like, okay, fine, whatever. And then I met with him, and then he really did help me, and I feel like actually like you saved my life. And see, but when you ask like who has really helped me, I'd probably say multiple people. Not it was Q, the fact that I had a Polynesian therapist, so that when I explained something, and because you can only meet with them for so long and then they have to meet with someone else. He actually did convince me to meet with someone locally, because I don't know what I was thinking, but I thought that I'll be healed by the end of because they only give you like a set amount, and I was like, yeah, I'll just like let it all go and then I'll be totally good. Then at the end, I was so surprised when he was like, I really think you should meet with someone locally, and I was, you're saying I'm that messed up, I need more help. And he was like, I can help you look for someone. I was like, well, at least you're just saying it. Anyways, whatever. The local therapist was a white man. And I saw the difference in, like, when I was telling my poly therapist, there was stuff I did not need to, like, explain. I would say, like, well, you know how it is. And he's like, I know how it is. But then I would have to. And it would sound... So then when the white therapist would hear it, they would be like, oh,
yeah,
tell me about it. And I was like, no, relax.
Yeah. Yeah, the cultural context is so different.
Yeah. I would also sometimes feel like a little bit attacked. They were like, oh, and you're cool, they do that, huh? And I was like, okay, not too much on my family.
Yeah, for real.
I was like, yeah, we did that, but that doesn't...
You're like, hold up here.
I was like, wait.
Can I go back to my other therapist?
But then, anyways, but he did help me too. And
well, even just like the explaining, I think that can be exhausting too.
Yeah, my sister helped me. My cousin's wife helped me. My mom helped me. My friends helped me. Just having people who like listen to me. I needed help, but I wasn't taking advantage of the resources around me because I, one, didn't really know what they were, if it could, entail for someone like me, and three, also because I was hesitant to reach out because I felt like leave it for someone who needs it, not me. I should just, grow up. I should just be stronger. I should just be better. I should just be happy. I should just have faith.
And I think a lot of that does come from cultural context.
Yeah.
I think the stigma in like Polynesian society is that therapy is for people who are messed up.
Yeah. And
when you're magnifying how you grew up and you're feeling like, well, I had parents that loved me and I have siblings that are here for me, like, I can't be messed up.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of like the view on mental health is that it's only, like, looking at mental health and getting therapy are only for people that are mentally ill or like, like you have really bad problems. But in reality, it's like, no, this is meant for anyone and everyone, especially when we come from a community that doesn't have us sit and process our emotions.
Yeah.
Because like you said, it's very much, we're happy people, we're happy and we're grateful. Mm-hmm. And that can be dangerous sometimes when it falls more into the lines of you're overly optimistic about stuff and you're not being realistic about the negative effects that are happening to you.
Yeah. I felt hesitant sort of sharing also because I knew I had people who loved me, you know, but I feel like if I'm surrounded by this love, then why am I in therapy?
Yeah, everything can feel so contradicting and confusing, huh? Yeah.
But, you know, life is still hard. You still go through hard things, even if you're surrounded by love. And that love can help you, but it doesn't shield you from everything. Which is unfortunate, but it's true.
What do you wish more Polynesian families knew about neurodiversity?
It doesn't make anyone less than. I also do think that the first thing that, you know, poly parents or Pacific Island, any parent naturally does is that they will make it like, oh, what did I do wrong for you to turn out like this? When it's nothing. It's not like that. You know, people can just be the way that they are for whatever reason. But that doesn't mean anything towards the parent or the child. I do wish the stigma, I think it's getting better. I feel like I see more people, you know, talk about it.
Me too. I feel like younger generations are becoming more aware.
Yeah.
And they want to talk about it.
Yeah, for sure. Here's the thing. I feel like anyone who watches this, and if they're thinking to themselves like, well, that won't happen to me. You don't know if that will happen to your kid.
Yeah.
Your friend's kid. Your brother, sister's kid. Your uncle, your aunt. Like, even if it's not happening to you, it can happen to someone you know. And being aware and being sensitive to, like, you know, to people with differences, it's better. It makes the world a better place.
I also think, like, with what you went through, I think many people in the Polynesian community go through life not thinking that they have anything.
Mm-hmm.
They're undiagnosed. But in reality, they probably do have some sort of neurodivergent way of thinking. Yeah. And it's exactly like what you said, there's nothing wrong with that. And I think that's the purpose of like us talking about it, because neurodivergency, it's not an illness or anything like that. It's just people think differently, and that's okay, you know? Mm-hmm. Like it's okay, like there's nothing wrong with it, like you said. Yeah. It's just different, and we have to understand each other in order to share like compassion and understanding, and to help other people feel like, man, like I have my community and my community accepts me, and I don't have to pretend to be a certain way just to survive.
Yeah. Oh yeah, masking is so real.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you feel like you had to mask a lot growing up?
Oh, I'm the queen of masking. I'm the queen. I didn't, but it's funny because I wasn't aware. I just felt like, you know, because I'm also the oldest daughter, and I felt like any weakness that I had to be dealt with privately. So then all I showed, like my parents and my siblings, was just like the best of me. It was really funny when I felt like I should take a break from school because of my mental health at some point, but I was too scared to talk to my parents about it. Until finally I felt like it was the best thing for me to do. So then when I brought it up to my parents, you know, I kind of sat them aside, scared out of my mind. I sat them aside, and then I was like, I think I'm going to take a break. And then, well, all of a sudden when I heard, oh, so you want to be lazy? Oh, so you want to like, so you're just not going to go back? You know, I just had a break. And they're like, what for? What for? You know, because I hadn't told, they knew I was going through therapy, they knew I was taking medication, but I've never told them how bad it got for me. So then.
And then again, it's hard to explain it. Like when they're like, what for? And you're like, well, I promise it's valid. I just don't know how to tell you.
How do I tell them? Because I'm sad.
What?
That's how it would sound like when I brought it up to them. And so then my parents, shot, huh? Shot. But then finally I remember I just kind of like broke down and told them I have to. I can't. And I told them all the stuff I was struggling with. And then after a moment of me hella crying, ugly, I remember the first thing my dad said was, "Wow, Val, we're sorry. We didn't know you were struggling like that." And then I was about to be like, and then my dad said, "You just always acted like you were happy and you weren't struggling." And then I remember I was like, yeah, actually I did. So this would be random to you, especially if I told you it's because I'm my mental health. And they're like, oh.
Okay. What advice would you give to other Polynesian individuals who are just starting their own journey with discovering about neurodivergency or even just like about themselves?
It's hard. Okay. I know this sounds contrary to everything we are taught in our culture, because you know our culture is so community based. But I do think that when it comes to navigating neurodivergency and mental health, that it is best to try and do what's most safe and best for you. And best for you does not mean you cut everyone off. I mean, if that's what you think is good for you, then like that would be a really, especially since we grow up so connected in our roots, to cut anyone off, that's not even what I'm trying to suggest.
No, but I get it too, especially when there are certain situations that it's necessary. Like you've had endless conversations with family members about what you're dealing with, and they're not open and they continue to be toxic, and they do more damage to you than they do
help you, support you.
Yeah. Or like help you like grow.
Listen, this is what I mean when I say what's best and safe for you. When I started talking about depression and therapy, of course there was pushback. My parents weren't used to this. I was the first person to like bring up therapy and all this stuff, and like depression and medication for depression and anxiety, especially my anxiety. My anxiety was worse than my depression. And there was pushback. There was times that I felt like completely misunderstood, but I kept going with my parents because I believed that they would understand, even though sometimes some of the conversations hurt. But I knew that they loved me. So I just talked about it more and more and more, even if, sometimes it wasn't received well. And there was some stuff that I did keep to myself, because that's what was safe and best for me. But I was still open about the fact that I was like doing therapy. And it came to the point where some of like another sibling who also had mental health and also needed to talk about, so that when it came time for them and my parents, that conversation was smoother. I had already talked about it for years with them, so that when my siblings started talking about it, it was received a lot. And I know that would seem like I would feel bitter towards it, but honestly, when I saw it, it made me feel glad. It made me kind of feel like all those hard conversations and all those conversations where I felt misunderstood, it was worth it if it meant that you feel understood. when you talk to our parents. And I kind of felt like, you know what? I am the oldest daughter. So that was my responsibility. I'm glad I did that. So that when my little siblings could, it was safer.
I did want to ask about religious beliefs and how that's like, how that's influenced you just like throughout the process.
Yeah.
And if you feel like it did have an influence in any way, or if you just relied more on like the physical support around you.
I felt at odds with Heavenly Father. Anytime that I felt mad or like misunderstood with God, I would feel someone would come my way and soften my heart. Because of their unconditional love and their service towards me, it would remind me like, no, they're an answer to my prayer. Heavenly Father is listening, even though it seems like I'm shouting into the void and no one's there, no one's listening. But I am being answered. I am being listened to, because every tough time there was someone nearby me, always like reminding me, always helping me, always just being there, even if it was just someone who listened. Yeah, my spiritual habits, I served a mission. All those habits, all those stuff, like I always was good about, prayers, scripture study, all of that. But then once I was working through that portion of my life, it all went away, which I know people are saying, well, that's why you struggled so hard. I understand. I still tried. And when I tried and I didn't feel anything, it made me feel worse. But I would still do it because I know, because someone told me that it would bless me somehow, even if I couldn't see it at the time. But it's made me feel closer to Heavenly Father, to God, and even again, going back to our previous question, every time I had those difficult conversations, and even if I went away misunderstood and hurt, I would feel Heavenly Father tell me, like, they know not what they do. And then when it came time, I would feel Him tell me, talk about it. Even though I was like, do you not remember last time? Are you trying to get me here for free? And then I would just again hear, like, do it. And I was like, so this, and then eventually, like, I didn't struggle as hard sharing. But even with that path, navigating through that, I still felt guided. And I think that's what I'm really grateful for. I felt guided because of like my religious beliefs. And I believed that what really grounded me was that I believed that there's a God who listens to me. Even if I felt no one else in this world was listening to me. There's a God that's listened and understands. And that's what really helped me through all that tough times. Every time I thought I was alone, I was reminded that Jesus, suffered the atonement, which means that He knows what I think. He knows how I felt when I got turned away, and He knows how I felt when I felt alone. And that really comforted me, and that is what made me stay in this gospel even when I didn't want to be.